once again. Today we will be doing lesson number 3 from our new quarterly, The Three Angels' Messages. The title, The Everlasting Gospel. The main memory verse was taken from Revelation chapter 14 verses 6. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, to every tribe, to every tongue, and to every people. Sunday, the grace-filled book of hope. I know movies have been done and it's scary. They paint the book of Revelation as something scary, something to be afraid. But actually the Bible is telling us that the book of Revelation is a book filled with grace and hope for a dying world. No wonder that this everlasting gospel has to go to the whole wide world, because the world is in need of hope. The world is in need of grace. We read Revelation chapter 1-3. And the beauty of Revelation chapter 1, it starts with a blessing. It says, "Blessed are they who hear, who read, and who keep the words of this book." So instead of being afraid, this book will give me hope. This is the good tidings. This is the good news that the whole wide world needs to hear. Monday, the everlasting gospel. What is this everlasting gospel? If I could summarize the everlasting gospel in a word or two, I would say that the everlasting gospel is Jesus and his love. In 1 Corinthians 15, 1-4, we are reminded by Paul that this gospel has to be preached. The gospel that Jesus came to die for my sins and for your sins. Romans chapter 3 verses 24-26 reminded us that we are freely justified by Christ, that we are redeemed by Jesus. In Romans chapter 5 verses 6-8 is the most beautiful verse, for God showed his love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for you and for me. That is the amazing love of God. Tuesday, a story of grace. When does the story of grace start? 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 18-20 says that the story of grace, the plan of salvation, the second chance for humanity, was ordained before the foundation of the world. You see, when Adam and Eve sinned, it did not take God by surprise. When Eve ate the fruit and she gave it to her husband, Jesus in panic and said, "Oh no, they sinned. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? How am I gonna fix this?" No. Jesus created two free human beings, and he gave them the ability to choose. And he knew that if they ever would choose to rebel against him, he said, "I have plan B." And this is the plan of salvation that Jesus already had way before the foundation of this world. Revelation 14:6 says that this everlasting gospel, to every nation, to every kindred, to every tongue, and to every people. Why? Well, you only have to turn the news on, and you're going to understand why this gospel of peace, this gospel of love needs to go to all the world. There's not one corner of this world that does not need hope. There's not a corner of the world that is not in need of love. That's what Revelation says. This gospel has to go to all the world. And we read Matthew 28, verses 19 to 20. And it gave us the commission. Jesus told his disciple as his last commission. He said, go to the whole world and preach and teach them all the things that I have taught you. And teach them to keep them and then baptize them. I love the love of God because no one is left out. In the heart of God, there's room for every single one of us. Isn't that amazing? Every tribe, every kindred, every nation and every tongue. What an amazing God. Thursday, a mission movement. You see, the remnant from lesson number 1 are those that are called disciples of Christ. And if you are a disciple of Christ, if I am part of the remnant of Christ, if we believe that Jesus is coming soon, we have one commission. And our commission, Matthew chapter 24:14, and this gospel, this everlasting gospel, this grace of God, the hope of salvation for every single human being shall be preached to all the world. And once this gospel reaches the whole wide world, you know what comes next? The end. Before the end of the world, as we know it today, the gospel of the love of God has to go through all the world. Friday summarized it beautifully, and it's said by thousands of voices. All over the world, the warning will be given. How is the world going to be reached? Well, by the disciples of Christ. That's why God needs disciples in Africa, in Europe, in South America, in North America, in the whole wide world. Because we are called to teach, to preach, to take this gospel as a witness. God needs you, my friend, and God needs me. Will you answer his call? I pray that you do, and I pray that I do. As we go about our daily lives, let's tell someone that there is a God that loves them dearly. Thank you again, and see you next week.